Michelle Ayers, dance music recording artist, on Power Me Up Radio, 24/7 on iHeartRadio, every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Welcome to New Artists Meet the Pros with your host, your girl here. I am Michelle Ayers. We're bringing it to you live right here on Power Me Up Radio Talk 24/7 right here on iHeartRadio. We got a great show lined up for you today. I'm so super excited. Boy, I got a guest, a powerhouse, a guru. We have Mr. Angelo Ellerby with us today. Say hey, Angelo.
Michelle, I am so honored to be in the presence of a queen such as yourself. I thank you for inviting me to come on, and I'm in for some good old down south talking.
All right, exactly. So I know that this is going to be a whole lot of information, especially for those new artists that are watching right now. Right now, we're talking to Mr. Angelo Ellerby. What do they consider you in the music industry? They say you are the...
Well, they say that I'm the Henry Higgins of modern day time. My title
Oh,
is the president and CEO of Double Exposure Media, celebrating 50 years in the music and entertainment industry.
wow. Listen, guys, 50 years. Celebrating 50 years. Some people don't even last a half of a year. To be able to celebrate 50 years, you had to be doing something right. So, Mr. Ellerby, tell us where and how it all started.
Well, Michelle, I guess you could really tell it the way that should be told because it started along with you out of my mother's basement in the greatest city I call in the world, Newark, New Jersey. Double Exposure
Yes.
was created in my mother's basement at 1531 Franklin Street. I was very ambitious at a very young age, and I began to, well, my degree is in fashion designs. So what I did initially is I designed clothes, and I did many charitable fashion shows in the city of Newark for so many years, like 18, 19 years. And in doing that, I wanted to enrich my culture with the awareness, enrich my community with the awareness of culture. And so I did these fashion shows, fundraising fashion shows for all these years. And then I stopped doing the fashion shows. And I met a gentleman by the name of James Mtume, the two-time Grammy Award winner. I met his wife initially, Camille Mtume, who gave me an introduction into fashion styling, if you will. She came to one of the shows, which was well attended. It was like 2,000 or 3,000 guests at the show. She came in the dressing room and she said, my name is Camille Mtume. And I said to her, oh, nice meeting you. She said, my husband is James Mtume. So I looked over to the person to the left of me, the right of me, and simply said, who's Mtume? And then they said, Ansel, he has the biggest record out now. It's called Juicy Fruit. And as we know, the record now, it has been sampled by Biggie Smalls and so many others. And she asked me if I would style Mtume's next album cover, which was You, Me, and He. And I did. We became like brothers and sisters. We loved each other from the front to the back. I love, and still do love Camille for just her sisterhood that she brought to the table. And I gave her all of what I had to give from a brother standpoint. And we became friends. And then one day, Mtume came to me and said, hey, man, if you're doing all this stuff for Camille, why don't you come and manage me? I said, I don't know nothing about no music. And I didn't make any music. But
Uh-huh.
Mtume, I went to the James Mtume Institution of Learning the Music Industry. And he would
Oh,
send me over to Sony Epic each and every single day. And I would come back feeling as stupid as one could ever possibly feel because I knew nothing about music. But the great thing about Mtume and why he's my mentor still to this day is that he would sit back and he would talk to me and he would tell me how to address the question, how to answer a question, what did I need to read in order to understand. It wasn't no Google back then. It was reading and understanding the concepts of what was product management, what was how you take a record from point A to point B. And every day I would come from these meetings, and Tume would sit me in his yellow office, and we would have conversations. And this went on for about 8 or 9 months. And then finally, someone from Sony called and said, "And Tume, I think your boy got it now." And thus I had it. And
Wow.
I became to run his corporation, which was Ifland called back then. And that was Swathan, the New Morant's crew, and Jekyll and Hyde, and a bunch of artists. And I started to manage and to make the group, and then all the other entities along with it. The great thing about my relationship with Ntume, he was the father that I never had. I loved
Wow.
him immensely. We did everything together. We shared everything. He was full of knowledge, and it's just unfortunate that I have to live with that legacy because I can't turn and go to him anymore because of his passings of several months ago. But he lives with me each and every single day of my life, and he's taught me to be powerful. He taught me to be great. He taught me to be greater, and he taught me to be great, the greatest in what I go to do. And so he came to me one day. He says, "I got an offer for a major motion picture." I just said, "Oh, that's great, Ntume." He said, "Let's just see if it's going to be great because you now have to do the press." And I said, "What do you mean?
Wow.
What do you mean the press?" And he said, "Well, when you see the newspapers." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Here's $100. Go out and buy as many newspapers as you need to buy in order to learn what a publicist does. And you need to look, young man, into the sections of music and lifestyles." Thus, I did it. This movie was a movie produced by Diane Silvers with a playwright by Richard Wright and the world famous James Baldwin. And I
Yes.
got a chance to meet James Baldwin through Intume, and it was a wonderful meeting. And I just began to do the press from that. But in the interim of all of that, I began to reach out and do independent projects. And some of the independent projects was, you have to understand, New Jersey was
Yes.
known for club music.
Oh yeah.
So I would come out with my campaigns, and one of my first clients was a group called Blaze, and then it was
Yes.
Sybil, and then it was Joe Manda, and then it was Michelle Ayers, and then it
Hi
was all
guys.
of these other club artists, Jocelyn Brown.
Yes.
And so I began to put my arms around the club music scene, and got very engrossed in this and developing these artists. You got to remember, that time was not where the club music wasn't lyrically driven. It was a pulsating track that got you to the set of the music, MSMB, and all of that kind of music, the
Yes.
Byron Stickley's and all that, Tin City. It was always that pulsating sound, and I got involved, and I got very involved into the movement of dance music in New Jersey. CC Rogers and all these people.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Marshall Jefferson's coming from Chicago.
Absolutely. And
Yes.
so I had my arms around the city of Newark, and there was a club in the city of Newark called Club Zanzibar.
Oh yes.
And Club Zanzibar was known for its club music. It was known for the place to go to dance, to be rejuvenated, to get your to come down off of where you were and get
Oh
into the
yes.
sounds of the music with the Larry Pattersons and the Larry Levans, and all these people would gather in the entertainment and the whole other bit. And I think you did a couple of shows there at Zanzibar as well.
Oh yes. Legendary shows. It was just
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, we so from that point on, I got involved in many aspects of publicity, and it was the next level for me. I moved into being the senior vice president of Island Black Music. And then I went from there, I went to Chrysalis Records. I handled people like Sinead O'Connor, and then people like Pat Benatar. And the list went on and on. And then while at Chrysalis, there was a young man by the name of Roland Clark.
Oh yeah.
Had a huge record out.
Yes.
I was very particular about my alignments within this company because back in that day and time, Black folks didn't have a space. They had a section of the music
Right.
industry. They had the Black music department and they had the pop music department, and we were not, as Black executives, allowed to go into what was pop. But I was very smart and very astute in my movement in and moving up the ladder. And I didn't stay in the area that I was supposed to. I went to another floor, and that was called the executive floor. As grand as I am, I was not going to sit in a cubicle. I needed to have an office. So I went throughout the building and went on the executive floor, found a space there, and the secretary said to the chairman, he said, "Well, the co-chair doesn't come into the office but once every 6 months. So why don't you take the office?" So it was
Wow.
positioning, and I positioned myself, and then I met the senior CEO of the company, and he said each and every single day he would see me working extremely hard, and he allowed me to come into the pop music division side, their marketing.
Yes.
And when I walked inside of the door, everyone said, "I think you're in the wrong meeting, Angelo." And then he popped up and said, "Oh, no, he's in the right meeting." And then that's when I began to work with Sinead O'Connor and that at Benatar. And I had did such a great job on Roland Clark. I just
Hmm.
started to give them all of my influences and all of my thoughts and ideas and my suggestions as to the movement of taking what was pop and bringing it to what was black, and taking what was black and bringing it into pop. So, as I did receive a promotion to a vice presidency there at Chrysalis, at the same time, my company Double Exposure was still being developed and being watched over in my mother's basement. So I was doing two jobs at one time. Clearly, for me, I knew what my goal was in life and was to be accomplished and to be a contributor and to be a provider for young people in the music industry. And because it's the music industry is so vast when it comes down to PR, Black folks have a understanding, or want to have an understanding, that what's white is right, what's black get back. And
Wow.
what I mean by that, we do not engage our Black PR companies or Black marketing people or Black radio people. We go to engage those of another pigmentation. My thing was to make things totally different in my perspectives as an executive. And as you see the merging of everything at this stage of the game, it seems to what now work. Now,
Yes.
hip hop, which was totally out of the pocket that they would never ever listen to or never ever play, time has allowed it to change and integrate, and so the popular it's no longer separate. While the money is separate, it's no longer separate to the point that there's a divide and conquer. So we that at this point we are collective. We must give each other, people who look like us, the chance to prove themselves, to be providers.
Exactly.
We must utilize their services and their talents. We should not shut the door because we think that someone white can get us there a bit quicker. There's a
Right.
difference and distinction for me. Ambitious versus ambitious. I don't like instant coffee. I like brewed coffee. Brewed
That's
coffee is
right.
going to take a little bit more time to percolate and to get ready. Instant coffee, you take water and you pour the coffee in and it's done. I don't want nothing instant. I want things that are going to be brewed and things that's going to be everlasting. It spells
That's right.
longevity. So I just want young people to understand the importance of bringing your keen professionals into your career, and be very clear about how you go to select a manager. Don't go selecting the boy next door because that's supposed to be your boy. Don't get the girl because that's your honey. They don't know what they're doing. You're looking for someone to oversee, supervise, and or manage and take your career to the next level.
Oh, yes.
Also, it's very important that one understands, a young artist understands what it's going to take to get on radio. It takes money. It takes
Yes.
money. So you have to understand the importance about the business of music. It's about saving, it's about collecting, it's about finding the right type of team members that's going to be able to be contributors to you to get you to that height. There is absolutely no stupid questions. You say to your
Absolutely.
manager, do you do this? Do you do drugs? Do you do that? You ask every question so that you become comfortable in selecting your team. You don't want the guy next door because he rolls a tight joint. You don't want the girl because she got a fat ass. You want someone that can elevate you, educate you, stimulate you, and motivate you, and bring you to the apex of your success. It's really, really important because Keeley is called the business of music. It's not called the talent of music, it's called the business. So you have all kinds of people that's going to come into your career that, I always tell people, demons come in disguises.
Exactly.
And so you have to be able to uncover those demons. They look like friends, but they really ain't your friend.
Oh, no.
They sound real good as an executive, but they really aren't. You got to be careful of how you go to sign that contract and what that contract is saying for the first 2 or 3, well, for the first year and thereafter. Don't think you're gonna come in here and make $1 million because you have a big record.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, it's all gonna come from you. So it's how you go to spend your money. You want to bring everybody with you to go on the road. It's called recoupables.
That's right.
That means that they're going to recoup from whatever you go to make. Whatever, if you sold 1 million records and you're supposed to get this percentage back, they're going to take theirs before you get yours. So it's an education. It's like the other side of it all for me is knowing the importance of your mannerisms, your
Oh,
diction, your
yes.
speech, your tonalities, your deliveries, knowing what it is for travel, what it is for publishing, your percentages, your business. All these things have to be considered and they have to be on defined investigation before you decide to say, this is my team member. This is how I look at it. There is a courtship, there's an engagement, and then there's a marriage. I'd rather court my manager for 6 or 7 months. Then I want to go another 4 months. I want another 4 months, and I want to engage it with them.
That's
What
right.
I mean by that, you go out and you get the jobs for me, and I'll give you your percentage, and then I'm going to decide if I'm going to marry you. And that marriage is to last. It shouldn't really ever be a divorce. But now I can trust you. I understand you. I understand that you can bring it to the next level. I understand that you know people, that you can make things happen for me.
That's right. Exactly. Now, I also, for those that are listening, I wanted to ask Mr. Ellery, tell us some of the great artists that you've worked with in the past and some of the things that you've done, some of your accomplishments. I'd love for you to share that with our audience.
Well, I think everyone will be aware of some of the people that I'm going to recite. Michael Jackson,
All right.
Whitney Houston,
Yes.
Dionne Warwick, Mary J. Blige, Alicia Keys, Genuine, Drew Hill, Mr. Biggs, Karen Clark Sheard, Donald Lawrence. The list goes. I've been doing this for a while.
Oh,
I
yes.
continue to do it. And I'm very, very excited about not necessarily the name artist, but I'm very excited about the no name artist that I can develop and that I can mold and shape and educate and motivate and get them on the right page. So yeah, of course, I managed DMX for 5 years. I was his publicist for 2 years. I
Getting ready to
ran.
bring that up. Definitely getting ready to bring him up.
Yeah,
We miss him so much.
yeah,
We
yeah,
do.
yeah. A wonderful, wonderful guy. I developed. I should say I was his president and his chairperson of Bloodline Records, where my job was to oversee, supervise, and manage his artists and the day to day wares of his company. When we go into the to the Latin, or I should say, into the reggae market, Shabba Ranks and Patra and Culture, and let me see, Junior Gong, the Marleys, Sadella Marley, so the list is continuous. No, there has been no genre of music that I have not worked in.
That is super amazing. Wow. And you also, I know you talked about a movie earlier, but you want to tell us about how deep you got into movie production?
Sure. I was because of my alignment and my associations with DMX. DMX did eight major motion pictures. And from the
Yes.
eight major motion pictures, I was the executive producer and music supervisor on six of them. And
Wow.
so I, my there's an I have the accreditations to working with DMX on the movies, and so yeah. And then outside of the Mtume's movies that I did with Mtume, we have a long slated roster of credentials when it comes down to the movies that I've contributed to in one form or another.
Wow, that is super amazing. You know what, Mr. Ellaby, I'm going to ask you to come back. We definitely need a part two and three because it's just so much I want to ask. And we do have a little bit more time to go into it, but I really want you to dig in. I want you to talk to me about Dionne Warwick. There's a reason why I want you to talk about Dionne Warwick. And I hope she gets a copy of this show. I want to give her flowers. Let me tell you something. I do come from a musical family, but one thing that was embedded in me, Angelo, if you don't mind me calling you Angelo,
Mhm. Yeah.
one thing that was embedded in me was when I was in elementary school, I was going to Lincoln School. I believe they named the school after her now.
Mhm.
We would have to go into the auditorium because Dionne Warwick would take time out of her busy schedule singing, traveling, doing all the wonderful things that she did.
Mhm.
She would take time on a regular, not here and there, I mean on a regular, to come and to speak to the youth. And I never forgot it. I want to say that I really appreciate her along with John Amos because they really, really took the time out to speak into the lives of the youth, and I've never forgotten it. So I want to give Dionne Warwick her flowers. And Angela, for this next 4 minutes, I want you to just dive into this particular family, who I believe is an amazing family. I have the biggest love for, and I always called her, as well as yourself, a mentor to me.
Well, I have been the publicist for Dion Work for 39 years.
Wow.
I am romantically in love with Dion, and I think Dion would say that she's romantically in love with Angelo. We have a relationship that stems back from the 70s. We learned about each other and we respect each other, and I respect her wholeheartedly because she's an engine that don't ever stop.
I'm
She
telling you.
she gives me the energy. You spoke about her school. She still to this day goes back to that school. We have
Wow.
we have fundraised for that school last year and continue to fundraise for that school. And this year, Dion has a she is a diamond amongst rhinestones.
Wow.
Is a strength and an energy that is nothing is in fact. But you also have to understand where she came from. Her mother is was a starch, no nonsense kind of woman.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
I loved her mother equally as I loved Dion because her mother was so honest and so pure with me. When I first started with Dion, she would call me every single morning and she would say, "Son, do you have your coffee?" And I said, "Yes, Miss Morgan, I have my coffee." And we would sit and we would talk for 2 hours before my employees would come in. And she would just tell me all the things that I should be aware of as it related to her daughter. Outside of being her mother, she was also her manager at some time or another. And so my experience with Miss Work has always been one of a learning experience.
That is so
So
amazing.
I've learned so much from her. And maybe she would tell you that she's learned some things from me as well. We are partners in business and partners in what we go to do. We share, we care, we love, we're devoted to one another. But she's a phenomenal, phenomenal woman. I had the pleasures of working with Whitney Houston and Robert Crawford.
Yes.
They had a group that I used to oversee and manage a couple of their groups when Whitney had a label, and they had a group called Into You, which had big success. Right? I think they wound up having a platinum record, but it did. But I don't know. The group fell apart at some point or another. But
Right.
Robin and Whitney was always very supportive of whatever it was that I was doing. It was Vincent Herbert who introduced me into the whole management side of what was happening on Whitney with Whitney and Robin.
Right.
So it's
Exactly.
so many, and the great thing about Vincent, as you know, Michelle, I raised Vincent. He used to work for me in my basement in
Oh
my
yeah.
house, in my mother's house. So, it just I just tell people you never know who's going to give you your glass of water.
You
Gotta
sure
be
do.
nice and humble, and caring and giving to people. It doesn't cost you anything to give back.
It doesn't. Oh wow, we're out of time. Woo, Angela, we have got to bring you back part two, part three. Thank you guys so much for listening in to New Artists Meet the Pros here. I am Michelle Ayers. Thank you, Angelo. We
My,
love you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
my pleasure. My pleasure, Miss.
Thanks for listening to New Artists Meet the Pros with your host, I am Michelle Ayers. Catch us next time.